Hey team, so today's topic is how long does it take to run a 2:30 marathon? Very, very difficult question to answer because every athlete is different. I do know that if you are trying to run this fast for a marathon, you obviously had to have progressed very heavily over the shorter distances. Running a half marathon in an hour and 15 minutes in and of itself is a very competitive time, but to do that twice in a row with no breaks in between, you have to have an enormous aerobic base. You had to have spent sufficient time training well below 5 minutes and 43 seconds per mile pace, and it's an extremely difficult time to achieve. I mean, even myself, I've only broken 2 hours and 30 minutes for the marathon twice, and I started running marathons in 2002. It took me from 2002 to 2007 to go from 2:43.36 in my debut to 2:19.35. My top recommendation if you're trying to run this fast is you have to start running your long runs at faster clips. You cannot run long, slow, and easy every single weekend to run a sub 2:30 marathon. You have to start mixing up faster paces, mixtures, miles during that long run, where I would be running 5:30s per mile pace, drop a sub 5 minute mile right in the middle of the long run, and then go right back into moderate effort. Again, mixtures of intensities. You're running a mixture of aerobic running, very easy running, very moderate level efforts, and then very hard efforts. So, and this is some of the things that I touch on in the sub 2 hour 30 marathon course that I have. I also have training plans for athletes that are trying to break the 2 hour and 30 minute marathon barrier. Yes, you do have to do volume to run 2:29.59. There's no question about it. You have to be running, I would say, anywhere from around 65 to 100 plus miles a week. And you have to be willing to do that consistently over a consistent basis. Are there athletes out there that break 2 hours and 30 minutes off of under 50 miles a week? I'm sure there are some athletes around the world that can do that, but they obviously have an enormous amount of not only work ethic, but they have a very high level of genetic capability as well. They're probably able to run at very high paces and build up very small amounts of lactic acid, whereas athletes that aren't as talented are running slower paces, but building up very high amounts of lactic acid buildup. And so for some athletes that aren't as talented, I'm an example of that, you really have to rely on your work ethic. You have to be consistent over, if you're trying to break 2 hours and 30 minutes, the longer buildup, the better. Aim at least 16 weeks, but preferably around 20 to 24 weeks in length. I also have just recently added on 24-week training plans for athletes that are training for the half marathon distance and the marathon distance, because I think that a 6-month buildup for a half marathon or a marathon, especially for the marathon and especially for you athletes that are trying to break 2 hours and 30 minutes, 6 months is optimal. 6 months is a better option than trying to get in great anaerobic shape and great aerobic shape in a matter of 8 to 12 weeks. It's very difficult to run this fast of a marathon time if you're in a rush. It's very, it's much better if you plan out your training properly over a longer period of time so that you get that 5:43 mile pace to feel more manageable. It's going to be an extremely aggressive pace regardless if you're super fit or you're not super fit. To do this, you have to train well. Mile repeats, examples of this, are doing mile repeats around 4:52 to 4:55 per mile on the track, getting to a point where you can run that fast. You don't start off that fast, obviously. You might be starting off doing mile repeats around 5:20 to 5:25 per rep, and then every 3 to 4 weeks you start lowering the intensity. You start increasing the intensity of those reps and start minimizing the amount of rest that you're giving yourself in between each one of those reps. So earlier on, like in our training plans and in the running courses I teach, I always talk about progression, periodization, allowing enough time for your body to adapt to the stresses you're placing on it so that over time, over several weeks, several months, your heart doesn't have to work as hard and you're running at much, much faster paces at the same heart rates you were running earlier on in your build-up. So those are some of the things you have to really keep in mind, as well as when you're preparing for a sub 2:30 marathon. Pace sustainment is key. I mean, it's already, like I said, it's already extremely tough and aggressive running to run 5:43 mile pace or to run a 1:15 half. And a lot of athletes can go out and do that, but much smaller amounts of athletes out there are able to go out and break a 2 hour and 30-minute marathon. And just know that if you haven't done it yet and you're, say, in your 20s or 30s, there's an example of recently of a gentleman out of Ireland. He's 62 years old and ran a time of 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 1 second. 62 years old. So don't think that your best running is behind you if, say, you're in your 40s or your 50s. You know, I'm 45, and you know, to hear that, I think the guy's name is Tommy Hughes, so definitely check him out. He's Irish, and to run a 2:30:01 time, anybody in the world, even if they're an elite Kenyan or elite Ethiopian or Japanese elite runner from around, you know, regardless where they're at in the world, would have to put in some effort to run a 2:30:01 marathon. And again, to run this fast, you have to do longer tempo runs. Get beyond just doing tempo runs of 3 to 4 miles. You have to start thinking about longer tempo runs, like anywhere from like 8 to 12 to 14 miles in length. And again, this is progressive. It's not like we just start off training this fast. So the key recommendations I can give to you, at least from my own background, and again, everybody's got their own opinion on this. Run longer during your long runs. Get that long run out to around, at a minimum, around 18 miles, out to around 23 miles at the max. I don't think going any further than 23 miles for your long runs is going to get you any additional fitness or advantage than going 18 to 23. I think right around that spot is perfect. But you gradually build up. First, your long run might be 7 to 8 miles early on, and then work your way to 10 miles, and then work your way to 14, and then gradually, as you get fitter, start running your long runs at faster paces, alternating a faster, varied pace long run one weekend, followed the next weekend by a very easy, relaxed long run. Jog on your recovery days. Make sure that you're giving your body plenty of time to adapt to the hard training you're doing. Most athletes need about 48 hours of recovery. So during those easy days, make sure you're hydrating well, make sure you're jogging. So again, you're gonna thank me for this too, because don't get so caught up in what miles per mile pace you're running or per kilometer pace you're running on those easy days, because on your tempo runs, on your speed workouts, hill repetitions, fartlek workouts, and these varied pace long runs, they are going to tax you to the limit, both physically and mentally. So make sure you enjoy your downtime, enjoy those easy days, make sure you're taking them easy enough so that, again, once you get ready for your next hard anaerobic workout, you're fully ready and rested to go and attack that next workout. You really have to work on your leg speed as well. Like I said, to make 5:43 mile pace to feel easier, you have to get accustomed to doing intervals on the roads and on the track at under 5-minute mile pace. And that's one of the top things that helped me over the years to get from 2:43.36 to 2:19.35. And again, I ran 2:19.35 is my PR, and I've run 2:26.42, which was my second fastest marathon. So I've broken 2:30 twice. There are plenty of athletes out there much faster than I am that have done this probably hundreds of times. So I'm just telling you from my own experience what worked for me. And what worked for me the most was really hammering down on the speed workouts I was doing, repeat miles at under 5 minutes per mile, repeat 2 miles on the track, 3 2-mile repetitions on the track at anywhere from 10 flat to 950 to 10 flat. And again, this was when I was training for 2:20 pace. So to break 2 hours and 20 minutes, to break 2 hours and 30 minutes, you might need to get to a point where you can get those mile repeats. For me, I was doing mile repeats anywhere from 4:44 to 4:47 at altitude. So for you, you might need to focus on running around 4:52 to 4:56 per rep. And again, giving yourself about four minutes rest earlier on in your training build-up when you need a little bit more time, because again, you're not as anaerobically fit, and as you get very fit, you start dropping that recovery in between each one of your hard intervals. And at my fittest, I was doing mile repeats at around 4:44 to 4:47 at 6,000 feet with 60 seconds recovery in between each rep. So again, I didn't just just immediately have that type of fitness. It took time. So be patient with yourself. If you're going after a sub 2:30 marathon, you really have to be patient. You cannot rush your fitness. You're not going after an average time. This is an elite time, in my opinion. Very few athletes around the world run this fast each year. But in terms of answering the question, how long does it take to run a 2 hour and 30-minute marathon? I think it really is going to come down to how you prepare, how cognizant you are of your preparation in terms of training enough of your weekly volume at near or far below goal sub 2:30 marathon pace. I think what you're doing in your off hours after the track workouts are done, after the road sessions are done. Are you hydrating well? Are you sleeping well? Are you focusing on positive information? It's very easy to get caught up with negativity sometimes too. But anything that's going to stress you out, just don't worry. Don't focus on that. Focus on the positives. Focus on the things that you can control yourself. And I think that will really set you up for success. There's so many other factors that go into breaking a 2 hour and 30-minute marathon. For the sake of time, I'll end here. But definitely let me know in the comment section below what your current best is, what's worked the best for you, and share that with the community as well, because I think it's very important that other athletes hear from other athletes here on the Run Dream Achieve community on what's working and what's not working for you. If you're trying to break this goal, this sub 2:30 marathon goal, let me know in the comment section below what has been giving you the biggest issue, and if there's any other areas I can cover in a future video that you need help with, let me know. I will definitely reach back out with you either with a video answer or I will respond to your comments. So I wish you guys all the best, and gals that are trying to break this 2 hour and 30-minute marathon. I know you can do it with enough persistence and consistency in your training, and I will talk to you all in the next video.